Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com, and I have on the line with me, I'm very pleased to be talking to these two gentlemen. I have mentioned James before, James Blundell, who runs or writes a Comic Book Addict blog. And he had an entry back in May that I noticed that caused me to contact him. And he said, or he wrote about a 4-page comic book story that he wrote, along with the artist, Ayoade. Ayoade, I forgot to ask you how you say your last name. Why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself to the fine folks?
Hello, guys. Ayoade Abobarin is my name. Ayoade, like H-A-R, pronounced H-A-R-Y-O-A-D-E, then Abobarin, like H-A-R-B-O-B-A-R-I-N.
Excellent.
You know, I'm a Yoruba man from Nigeria. Thank you.
So you guys, this officially makes my podcast, or at least the guest on my podcast, an international one. So I thank you for joining me. I know you guys are, I think, about 8 hours ahead of me, and it's evening where you are at. So again, thank you for joining me and taking the time to talk about this stuff. So just to give a brief overview, like I said, James runs a Comic Book Addict blog, and I read his post back in May about the comic book that he was involved in. Could either of you just kind of briefly tell the story? How did this start? How did you guys get together to do this? And we'll just go from there.
Let James go first.
Okay, thank you. Well, basically, I'm trying to think how it began now. So long ago. Back in January, a friend of mine, a creator called Matt Garvey, he's a comic book creator here in Britain. He's made a good few comics over here, Chunks, Ether, Transfer, things like that. He put up a competition on a forum for aspiring artists and creators, unpublished, who had never been published, to have the chance to create a 4-page comic in the back of his latest comic book, which I think comes out in a couple of months. He and I are friends, and he gave me a call because I'm always badgering him with ideas and thoughts in my head. And he said, "You should do this. You should do this." And I did. I did really. I had a bit of a think about it, and I came up with this idea. And that was my part of it done. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find an artist, and Matt Garvey again suggested I try on this forum and reach out and see if anyone would be interested. And fortunately for me, Ayoade was, and he replied, and the rest is history, as they say.
And so, Ayoade, what was so you saw this post by James on this website, right? And
Yes.
So what caused you to be interested in what he was trying to do?
Great. Thanks very much for the question. The forum is called Miller World Forum. Miller World Forum. It's a blog started and run by the great Mark Miller, the prolific writer. So I joined sometime last year, like May, around May of last year. And I, from time to time, I would make posts, I would contribute to the threads. Then at some point, there is this like contest that takes place on the forum every year, in which Frank Miller would pair artists and writers from all over and give them a chance, unpublished writers and artists, that is, and give them a chance to get published in what we, in an anthology of comic book stories. So that was the first thing that drew me to the blog. But he ran one contest. He gave out and he opened an entry last year May for artists that will be paid this humongous sum, like pro professional page rate. That is, so in which I put in my entry, but of course, the deal went to a professional artist. That is, he had it in mind to give that to a pro. He said we rookies would also, give it a chance. So that went around me. So come November, December of last year, 2016, he rolled out an opening for his annual Miller World anthology for 2017, in which I put in entries as well. And I didn't qualify. So that also went. But around March, I saw this opening by Matt Garvin on Miller World, pairing artists and writers. I said, as long as you're a group, you have to be a team of a writer and an artist and produce a 4-page short that will go that will fill in the last 4 pages of a small press anthology he was going to publish at the time. So I, looked over the writers in the thread, and at that time I was a bit discouraged for having participated twice in that kind of contest and had failed to qualify. Well, I read through the thread, then I discovered James' post. Now, what drew my attention to his post was that he, number one, he's British, and Mark Miller was doing something on the thread, on the forum for British aspiring writers and creators that I liked. Now, back here in Nigeria, most things are British. We are more British influenced than American influenced, if you permit me to say that. So what he was doing for aspiring British creators was something that I find inspiring. And I discovered James is British, so was Matt, and I said, okay, I decided to give it a try. Let's do something British. Let's see what I can bring to the table as an artist, and let me see how I can interpret script, because I haven't worked with a writer in a while. As an artist, I do what we call freestyles. I do regular sketch that I post on my DeviantArt page, and my periodical post also on Facebook. So by the time I was drawn to his post, and I replied to his thread, and from there we got talking, and he sent me a draft of the script, and from there the rest is history, as they say. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's really interesting. So I knew of the Millar World Forum, and I knew that there was an anthology, but I never purchased one, so I'd never seen anything in it. So James, that was the comic that you referred to that your friend Matt Garvey wanted you to submit something for.
No.
Okay.
That's, as far as I'm aware, I think that's a completely different contest. Was that a completely different contest, Ayoade?
Yeah. A completely different contest.
I misunderstood. Okay.
That's cool. I guess Matt had seen this contest and decided, that's a good idea.
Oh, okay.
I've spoken with Matt many times. Sadly, we've never actually met, but I've spoken with him many times, and he he's always been about comics. He's always been about bringing new comics in and new fans in. I can't even begin to describe what he is. I guess it's never about money or creational stuff. It's always about the comics community.
Mm-hmm.
And this was kind of what he wanted to do was, try and get some more creators or more people to take part in creating comics. And I knew of the Miller World Forum vaguely. Just I was not a member until Matt came to me and said, try this. In which case I joined. But yeah, no, I would guess that he probably saw the Miller World Anthology and thought, you know what, I could do something similar to give back.
So what is the name of the comic that you are referring to?
I'll be honest, I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
From what I know, he's got a few different ideas in different stages of the pipeline.
Oh, it's not something that's currently published or available.
It's not yet.
Okay.
I think it's due later this summer, probably in August. I think.
Small press.
Yeah, it's very small press. He's published a few this year so far. Actually, I think he's published like 3 or 4 comics, which is quite an achievement for someone who does a 9 to 5 and then makes comics in his night.
So I take it that this would not be available in the States, at least not easily.
It's not immediately. A lot of Matt's stuff, he has his own imprint called Lab Rat Comics, and he does submit them to Comixology through Comixology Submit.
Oh, okay.
He so far has 6 comics on sale through Comixology at present. I believe each one ranges from about $1, I think, $1 an issue.
Well, that's pretty good, actually. I like that price point.
What are they? They're 4 different series at the moment. Chunks, The Adventures of Cordelia Swift, Transfer, and recently released was Ether.
All right.
And they're all very different kind of types of, what's the word? Genre. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But this next one, I believe, would include the pages that he set up his competition for. And he came to me and he said, you should try this, because as I said, I chew his ear off. And I thought, yeah, okay, why not? It's something I always fancied doing. I'd never intended to win. It was just, why not have a go? Why not try? Because I've always talked a good game, but never walked the walk.
Right. And that's one reason why I wanted to talk to both of you, because so often you hear comic book artists and writers and people involved in creating comic books that I read. They're always talking about how for aspiring creators, their only advice is just do it. Just go create a comic. And so that, you guys did that. And that's the main reason I wanted to talk to you, is because I know, James, this was your first attempt at creating a comic. Is that correct?
Yeah. This is my first. I've dabbled with ideas and thoughts of, this would be a good comic and this would be a good comic, but I've never actually sat down and written anything. It's all kind of pipe dream, essentially. And
Ayoade, you mentioned that you submitted some stuff to the Miller World contests a couple times. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
That's correct.
And now have you done anything else besides that and the work that you did with James?
Yes, I have a writer here and a publisher, small press, back home here, that I've worked with for over 17 years.
Oh, wow.
So, yes. But the way, because it's something that grew out of hobby, we grew, because of the long spans of time, we both grew and got better in our crafts, both I and my writer, who also doubles as the publisher. The name of the outfit is called Numa Comics. It's there on my Facebook page. Numa Comics. Yeah, we put up, we've had several published stuff over the years, but lately we are on the low down, as far as production is concerned. But we still grow. He's still growing as a writer. I'm still growing as an artist. So we have worked with a writer, for that long. So I wouldn't say this is my first attempt to create a comic. I've had several published comics over the years. Thank you.
So, are any of these comics available in the States through Comixology or anything like that?
Not yet. They were kind of small press, something for the home market at the time, and some of them were brand items for a bank, and brand items for small businesses here. My last collaboration with him was a comic book about weather change. I can mail you samples, tidbits of those after this interview. It was a comic book about climate change and the effect it's having on we as Africans and we in this part of the world, and what should be our responsibility as individuals and as corporate organizations. So we did a small comic book on that was translated into several indigenous languages and was distributed to stakeholders and members of the public. Thank you very much.
Wow, that's very impressive. I would love to be able to take a look at that, especially. But I wanted to ask you, Ayoade, so you mentioned that when you saw James' post on the forum, you said something about him being British, and I was wondering what you meant. What drew you to him for that reason?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. See, coincidentally, today is my 39th birthday.
Today is?
I turned 39. Today is, yes.
Oh,
that's correct.
Happy birthday.
Happy returns, my friend.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. So I've been reading comics since I was about 5, 6. Then over time, when we got into the teenage years, shortly before teenage years, we were not able to differentiate between publishers. For example, the big two, which characters belonged with Marvel, which characters belonged to DC. Then the evolution of image publishing. Then at some point, we were able to differentiate between the British comic books and the American comic books. See, as the great writer Bruce Jones once said, he said, each house, when they were growing up reading comics, each comic house has what it's called attitude, attitude, as some might want to call it. So there was this, there's the attitude of the British publishers, the British creators, what some would describe as grit. When we're talking about comic books such as 2000 AD, which we bought and collected growing up, Wizard and Chips, Tops, and the likes, ABC Warriors. They had a certain attitude to them. And the American books on the other side had a certain attitude to them. In terms of superhero stories, the fantastic stories, and the likes. For me, I always liked the grit, I would call it, that British creators brought into the American mainstream in the 80s. So for me, it was like an opportunity to work with an Alan Moore, if you might want to, understand it that way. An opportunity to work with a British creator, someone from the British side, Europe, and still talking about attitude, the European comics, the band design, and the European publishers also have a certain attitude to them. So for me, it was like a culture sample, a kind of culture exchange, if I'm permitted to call it, to say it that way. I like drawing comics. I like art. The other thing I like as much as art is meeting people, sampling cultures. So it was an opportunity and an open door for me to actually sample the British comic culture, if you like to permitted to say it that way. Thank you.
Okay, so that I guess I hadn't really thought of that before. But you're absolutely right. As you said, discussing what we in America called the British invasion of comics back in the 80s. I guess I was aware that there was a different perspective that we were seeing in the comics because of the British writers and artists that came along. But I hadn't considered it from your kind of a perspective, I guess. So that's really interesting. So we've kind of talked around the story that you guys created. I'd like to get into more of the nuts and bolts of how you guys went about creating this thing. But I think first we should describe what this 4-page comic is, just real briefly. Do either one of you want to do that?
If I may, Ayoade?
Yeah, go on.
Absolutely. So basically, the 4-page comic is about a man who has been caught in an alley with a murdered body. Rather sinister. But as the story continues, 2 men have spotted him, presumably killing this poor woman, and try and be heroes. Unfortunately, that's not quite what happened. And this man is in possession of a beard, a hipster beard, with a mind of its own and a penchant for killing people. And thus, the young lady was his first victim of the story. And the 2 gents who decided to be heroes have joined her. And that's how it ends, with the bewildered owner pretty much up the creek without a paddle, to put it nicely. Yeah. So first of all, I just want to ask, Hipster Beard. Now that's the title of this 4-page comic, the Hipster Beard. Why a hipster beard? Well, to be honest, it wasn't originally called the Hipster Beard. It was just called the Beard. And basically it was on the principle that, this chap is hiding something. He has a beard, as I can't think how best to describe why that's relevant. But yeah, he was hiding something, from the rest of the world, that this beard was actually killing people. It was kind of a two-way thing. But a friend of mine then said to me that it might be taken the wrong way if someone looks at it, because in some cultures, beards are iconic. They are very religious in some respects.
Sure.
And by doing such a thing, it might imply negatively against them. And it wasn't. I didn't want to imply it negatively against anything. It was just something that came into my head. So he said, "We'll call it this," and I said, "Okay, done."
Okay, all right.
It's like that. Just because the way Ayoade had drawn the beard, it looked very wispy and hipster-like. So it was like, call it the Hipster Beard. Done.
Oh, so was the story that you created somehow, and this, for Ayoade, is it somehow intrinsically British? Or maybe it's hard for you to answer that, James.
It probably is. I mean, unlike Ayoade, I've read very little 2000 AD. I don't actually get with the concept of the genre really. I enjoyed the Dread film, the recent Dread film, and I've enjoyed a few of the comics, but I've never been a hardcore 2000 AD fan. I gravitate towards American books, which feels ironic really when Ayoade gravitated towards the British ones. But I don't know. I'm a very dark, gritty person. A lot of my other fiction is crime. Usually, it's usually crime novels, crime shows, things to that effect, and which are very dark and gritty. And I guess that was my influence more than anything, along with this kind of Dexter-like sense of it, because the whole idea of a serial killer who's a bit in over his head just kind of screams Dexter, and the kind of hilarity of it, I guess.
And so, Ayoade, so you mentioned that you saw the post by James on the forum, but he did. Was there a description of the story? Is that what drew you in, or did you find out later what the story was about?
Yes, in the first mail, after I agreed to collaborate with him on the thread, the first mail he sent had a brief description of what the story is about. I credit him immediately that he's very, very professional. He gave me a small overview of what the story is about to know if I'm interested in doing that kind of story or not. He said it's about a beard that has a mind of its own, and it's on a killing spree, if I may say it that way. What drew me to where I showed interest immediately, because I had done more of crime stuff in the portfolio of work I had done back home here. I have more of crime fiction. So when he talked about a story about a beard with a mind of its own, my mind went to something like a thriller, a thriller / horror kind of story. So I'm looking forward to doing that, because I had mailed a friend a while ago who wanted to know the kind of stories I do, talking about comics, that is. I said I'm a superhero fan, but I've done other types. So this was my first collaboration that would be a horror comic proper. So it was something I wanted to do.
Okay. So I want to dive into your guys' collaboration. And then maybe we'll talk about the actual, because there's some things that I wanted to ask you about specifically about the end result, the 4 pages that you guys produced. So James, you sent, as Ayoade said, you sent a brief description of the story.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you write a script at all, or was it just a general, this is how I see the story unfolding?
No, a script. I wrote a script prior to sending it to Ayoade. It basically will start from the very beginning.
Okay.
After saying, yeah, okay, I'll write something. Nothing of a 4-page nature came to me, and then I got into a conversation with 2 people on Twitter over the silliest of things ever. One of the gents was Matt Garvey. Again, he getting a lot of talk in this. The other was a Joseph Nathan Smith, an artist from the States. And the talk was just about how Matt's beard had grown so out of control, but he wasn't sure if he could if that would be used against him in a court of law. And it's just absolute ludicrous. And we're just killing ourselves with a few tweets back and forth, going, "So a killer beard? Is this beard killing people while when you don't mean it to?" And the idea just clicked from that. Well, wait a minute, that's a really funny, weird idea. And I dwelled on it for a couple of days, and then I wrote it. I just thought, well, you know what? He said, get an idea. This is an idea. And in the space of about an hour, I think I just hammered it out and got a rough script together. And that was pretty much it. And it was like, okay, well, I'm done now. What's next? So when it came to talking with Ayoade, it was a case of, initially I sent him the synopsis, just a brief breakdown, because I didn't want to bother him with the whole script and him not to be interested just on sheer volume. I thought, I'll give him a basic rundown of what I'm thinking, and if he likes it, we'll send him the script, and then we'll work together.
Okay, and so then Ayoade, you read his description, and what did you think of the idea initially?
Yeah, thank you very much. I read through the first draft of the script, which he mailed to me, and he made the presentation so easy in the sense that he had it uploaded on Google Drive. So I could read the script in a word processor that is linked to the internet. So I read through the script, and the first thing that came to my mind is one of the creepiest horror movies I had seen. Growing up in the 80s, there was this horror movie on local TV station we called The Blob. Growing up, I discovered The Blob is a movie from way back 1958. Mm-hmm. It's a horror movie. So it's about this, what we call, ordinary day, this rolling blob of rubber that was rolling and killing people, took up a life of its own and kept rolling on and killing people. So that was the first thing that came to mind. Something creepy, inanimate object that suddenly takes a life on its own and goes on a killing spree. So having that at the back of my mind, I went on into research like an artist would do, and remember I mentioned he's British. So in my research of materials, I can even mail you my scrapbook of materials I used for the work. You had stuff like I had to Google the kind of beard he wanted. Then you have the clubbing lifestyle, nightlife in Britain is a bit different from lifestyle all over in other parts of the world. There's a overcoat in the British culture called a duffel coat. I had to look up, for example, how a duffel coat looks like. Then clubbing gear for the only female character in the game, in the comic. Then what the clothing will be like for the character and the supporting, characters as well. Then I had to look up the kind of alleyway we will be using. Dark alleys. I wanted something off the usual kind of dark alley with frames and catch ladders and the likes. I wanted something more like something dark, narrow, humid, damp kind of. So I looked up stuff like that. Then I set to work laying out what we call breakdowns or roughs, if you permit me to use that. So, which I mailed to him, and immediately he saw the roughs. Something I was able to connect with what he had in mind, and we had a blast. Thank you.
Wow, so I guess I just kind of have this perception of artists is they get the story and they just start drawing, but you did research. You make sure that the clothes are correct, the location is correct, and then you started creating the images.
Yes,
and
that's
so,
correct.
And so, James, when you got those roughs from Ayoade, what did you think? What was your reaction to that? And then what came next?
Well, I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to think back now. I mean, I'll be honest. The thing that impressed me the most about the roughs was the speed at which he sent them back to me. I mean, I was kind of like you there in respect, Eric, in that I figured Ayoade simply just sat down, read the script, sat down and drew. Mm-hmm. And just hearing him now talk about the research he put into it, because I can't quite remember, but I'm pretty sure he had all 4 pages, all the rough drafts of all 4 pages back in 2 days.
Wow.
And I thought that was fast if he just sat down and drew. So given that he researched everything, Ayoade, perhaps my hat's off to you, mate.
Thank you. I'm flattered.
But yeah, I was actually impressed. I was impressed with what he sent back. I recall there was some things I was unsure about, and as I looked at the roughs, I went back to him and said, "Could we change this and could we change that?" And he came back to me, and we discussed back and forth on the emails, what was needed and what was changed. But for the most part, I mean, I'd say like 95%, if not more, was exactly how I envisioned it when it's in my head.
Ah, okay.
I'd say.
And so what?
Because I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I'm a very visual person when I think this stuff up. So I have this. A great example. You've read the book Lazarus. You're a fan of Lazarus. Mm-hmm. And I read somewhere that Greg Rucka's initial idea for that was just an image of a woman's body on the floor riddled with bullet holes, as in from the very first issue. And, it was just that visual thing that made the rest of the book. And that was how it was for me. So when I see the roughs come back practically image for image, exactly what was in my head, I was very impressed. I was very happy with what, and very pleased with the gentleman I was working with. And
so, for either one of you, when James messaged you back, Ayoade, about the things that he thought might be changed, what did you guys? What were those things, and how did you approach that deliberation about the things that needed to be changed, or that James thought he might want changed?
Yeah, thank you very much. Initially when I did the research, I knew, for example, one of the items that needed changing was the beard, the volume of the beard. Yeah. I was quite aware that we would need to change the volume of the beard, but in my line of work, at the stage in which we were, at the rough stage, I just used what I would call a placeholder for the beard. I knew I would need to reference and draw in the beard and the other accessories in the right volume eventually. What I had in mind for him was to see if we're on the same page as regards the position, the stature of the characters, and relative positions on the stage, to see if I got my staging the way he wanted the story staged. Because the idea of working with a writer is to be able to grab the vision of the writer and express in a visual level. So I knew eventually we need to make changes. So I left room for changes deliberately at that planning stage, I'll call the rough stage. And I must credit James for his strong sense of what he wants. He reminds me of my writer back here. I like writers who have a strong sense of what they want. So they are like a film director giving instruction to the light and the camera, if you understand in that sense. He had the very strong sense of what he wanted, very cinematic in his layout of the story. So once I got the script, read through the script, I was able to interpret and express immediately. There was clarity in terms of what he wanted and how we wanted them. Thank you very much. So one of the items we had to change was the volume of the beard. And I think the other change we made was very, very minute. I can't even remember.
It was the clothing. I've just looked it up. It was the clothing. Some of the clothing I'd initially dressed the characters in, you changed. But I mean, it worked really well. I think I had a few more layers on on all of the characters, and you trimmed them off a little bit, and it looked good. And and I mean that was kind of what I wanted. Is though I have a strong sense of what I see, and ideally I'd like it all be exactly how I see it. I only see what's in the foreground. So I see the characters and I see the action, but I don't see what's in the background, and I don't always see it in the way maybe it should be or would be best shown. So I mean, I'm grateful for Ayoade. He's come in, he's drawn what I want to see, but he's made enough changes that he thinks are necessary. And that's what I was looking for. So again, thankful I found it.
You're welcome.
So, Ayoade, you said that you left room in the roughs because you would expect to make some additional changes.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I never even that has never occurred to me that an artist would anticipate changes in that way, I guess. I know that an artist and a writer would go back and forth and changes would be made, but I guess I've never heard it expressed in the way that you did.
Yeah, thank you very much. When you are drawing with a script, especially a script written by a professional writer, they usually see, we see in pictures, not in words. There's usually a picture in the mind of that writer that he's trying to bring to the fore. So it's like dialing up and getting to know somebody. Back home here, I've worked with my writer for a period of 17 years. Today, we talk and I know what he wants. I'm able to visualize camera angles. I have a strong idea because there's been a period of working together. But in this case, I'm working with a new writer, and the anticipation is in sense of he might want certain things to look certain way. For example, short hair against long hair for a female character, body build, slightly overweight, muscle bound, slim, things like that. Really, as a professional artist, you make room for such changes when you are interpreting scripts. And such in this case, I left room for relative position of characters to the camera, what's in the foreground, what's in the background, how much of interaction. And he didn't give suggestions about lighting and the likes, but I was able to deduce from the mood of the story as the kind of lighting that would best go with this kind of story. So the anticipation area there was in terms of how he visualized certain elements in the composition and what might serve best for the story, just like he mentioned, like for example, the beard will eventually come alive. I had to make room in clothing, for example, that as the characters move and jostle around, there is room for the beard to be clearly seen, and for the what's going on in the panel, individual panels, to be best represented pictorially. Thank you.
That kind of stuff just fascinates me. How you can create those images based on, no offense, James, but a few words.
None taken. No, I agree.
It's just fascinating to me and very impressive. And so, okay, so Ayoade, how did you draw this? Did you do pencils on paper and then do inks on that? Do you draw digitally? How did you produce the actual images?
Yes, I usually would start with a sketch on paper, which after the roughs, which I scanned roughs, then mailed to him via the open document he created on Google Drive. Let me quickly say this. There was an occasion, I and James are relatively on the same timeline. So as a result, we are more likely to be active at about the same time of the day. So there was a day I was, he gave me room to make changes, to move stuff around, move lines of script around. So there was a day I was imputing, I think that was the second page in the text, in the script document, like an image, if you're permitted to say that. And all of a sudden, my blinking cursor left where it was and crawled to the top of the page and started typing on its own. I am working on a horror story for my end here. It's one of the creepiest moments I've ever had. I had to pull back from my computer. I pulled back from the computer. Then when I found, okay, of course. Well, who else could it be? Eventually, he made the change and he notified me on the chat box at the side of the document. So it was James from the other end making changes to it. At about the same time, I was making changes from my end.
And so, so you guys, you worked together and you got the final images created, the final 4 pages, and so what, for both of you, what was the most surprising or even illuminating aspects that you discovered based on working together? What surprised you the most, or whatever?
Yeah, let me go first. One of the kindest things I've heard, said to me in this my line of work was a statement he made halfway through the project, when he said some of these images came out even better than he had envisioned them when he was scripting. Because I forgot to mention earlier on that I inked digitally over the penciled roughs. Scanned roughs, I inked digitally over them like you would, it's called loose inks in the forum of artists, like a straight up ink over rough pencils. That was the approach I took here because I was working on a rather moody, dark, gritty picture I'm trying to paint. So he did mention that some of those things came out better than he had envisioned them, and I found that very, very flattering. Thank you.
Well, I got to admit, I said it then, and I still mean it now. I mean, I've got it up here as well. I'm looking at it as we talk, and looking back, you asked what the most surprising thing is. I'm surprised something that was in my head is on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but more than that, I'm surprised it's on paper and looks this good. it should be one of those really tacky stick figure drawings. I feel that's that's my greatest aspiration. So to have Ayoade create this with me and put my idea on paper it's humbling a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that's the surprising thing. That sounds really bad, actually. That makes it sound like I'm surprised he has such great quality in his work. It's not that at all. It's I think it was also illuminating to see the quality of unpublished artists, because I read lots of comics and I see lots of artists' work, and it's like, some of these artists are really good. You have so many artists in the world. You have the Nicholas Scotts and the Charlie Adlers of the world, and you think these are the great artists and everyone else is just substandard, but it's not. And it's nice to know that there's still great artists out there waiting for their chance, like Ayoade, just to make that clear. Just bailed off there.
I knew what you meant by that.
Just in case any of your listeners thought otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. So now, you both prepared these 4 pages for possible inclusion in one of Mr. Garvey's comics that he's putting together.
That's right.
And I know, I already know, unfortunately, that you were not your 4 pages were not chosen. That's correct, right?
That's right. Sadly.
Yeah. So what kind of feedback did you get regarding your submission?
Not much, to be honest. I'm just trying to think back now. What I recall, if memory serves, he put a public post on the forum to all the entrants, just to say, we have chosen this comic. And I recall him saying it was a very tough choice because they were all incredible works. And in the end, it was the story he chose was more suited to the book he was releasing it with. And that's fair enough. He's the creator. He's putting his money into it. So I look forward to reading it personally. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've already seen who the winner was. So, but we look forward to reading it in the proper book. But there wasn't any critique. There wasn't any, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. Certainly when I spoke directly to Matt, he never implied or inferred or outright said that this is a problem, this was a problem, you should have done this. I've passed it around because I know, obviously, as you know, I posted it on my blog. And I've posted it to a few friends who also create comics of the same vein as Matt. And a lot of them, and it's all come back as positive, which is great, which is wonderful, and implies that I actually have some talent at writing. But I'm glad that they also feel very strongly about Ayoade's work.
Mm-hmm. And have you gotten any feedback, Ayoade?
Yes. Well, after the contest, when I saw that another work was chosen, I didn't have any feeling of disappointment at all, for the following reasons. One, my people back home here always usually tell me that my work is world class. My work is world class. But I've never had a forum and a venue to actually prove that. That's one reason. Then reason number 2, now, part of the first reason, I was able, via this collaboration, to actually prove that my work is of high quality. I had James using words like him having good fortune, to having met me. That I find very, very flattering. Then reason number 2, I told you I like meeting people. That's one thing. Other thing I like doing apart from drawing comics. Having met James on that platform and having gone through the process of research for the work and the actual process of producing the work, I was able to sample some British nightlife culture, some lifestyle culture, some clothing culture, life, then getting to chat with him as a person as we worked on the project. Then I've been able to make one other friend who is actually a comic person. You see, like this time on my computer says 7:54. You hardly will get any other topic that will get me engaged for hours straight. I must, I must say that. So, in James, I was able to meet one more person who loves comics as much as I do, and that for me is something great. Thank you.
Well, yeah, and so with James sharing it with me and to everyone on his blog, I got to see that, and I think it's great that you guys created this thing together. And I love how complimentary you are to each other about each other's work. I love to see, or I love to hear people talk about, how working with someone is really good. Maybe you learn some things from each other. Sounds like that's the case. And I just think it's really cool that you guys were able to work together like this and produce what you did, despite, the end result of it not being in the comic. You guys still created something from nothing. And that's impressive in itself.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate those words. Rather humbled a little bit.
So one of the things, if you don't mind, I'd like to transition into talking about some of the things that I really liked about the 4 pages, and we could talk about some of those things, and maybe you can provide some more background or information about them. So back to your research, especially about clothing, Ayoade. That's actually one of the things that I really responded to when I read through this, was how well the clothes were drawn, and there's a few panels in here where the characters themselves, the bodies, I just think you did a really cool job at portraying those characters.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my first approach when I got the script and small descriptions of what the characters were like, I wanted them to be grounded in realism as much as possible. And in addition to that, James had real life references of what characters would be like in the story and what they would be wearing be like, and facial features and the likes. So the only change I had to make was on the character that was accosting, that was assaulting the bearded guy. If we were to go with the gear James described in the script, I would have had difficulty in rolling down the beard across the chest area to actually grab hold of the knife. So if from the rough stage I had left clearance for the path in which the beard would grow as to grab hold of the knife, and for the dead character on the ground, I ran a lot of reference on club gear. She was supposed to be returning from the club. I wanted to go with something, dark, showing a little bit of skin, then, high, knee-length boots, that kind of skirt, then something showing a little bit of skin underneath, then a jacket, a light jacket over that, because I had, when James had mentioned the duffel coat earlier, I'd read, mentioned the duffel coat, I had referenced the duffel coat, and from stories I've heard from relatives who stay in the UK, they talked about weather changes and they need to have a coat on over whatever it is you're wearing before rolling out. And I kind of like the idea of knee-length boots for somebody, as a complement accessory to skirts, and he gave a brief description of what the girl's hair would look like, which I bought into completely for that kind of story. Curly hair. I like drawing. I'm a hair person. I like drawing long hair, so I didn't have problems interpreting all of that. And the alleyway setting, I wanted a kind of damp, severally refurbished building, kind of alleyway with vents from heaters and cooling systems as a typical of the British housing culture. So I had stuff like that, in my mind as I did research and went on with the actual artwork. Thank you.
Yeah, every time you describe your process, Ayoade, I'm just impressed.
Thank you very much.
So there's a few things I wanted to get to about these pages, though. Just to point out things I like I said. So on the first page, I really like the way that the panels are laid out. We've got essentially 7 panels, right? We've got six inset panels over this larger full page panel.
Yeah, that's right.
And I noticed that with some differentiation, that is the format that was used for 3 of the 4 pages. And so I was curious, basically why you made that choice, why 7 panels, essentially, and in the way that you did it.
James.
There was a reason, and I don't for the life of me remember what it was.
So it was planned.
It wasn't. It
okay.
was. I had very specific images in my head. One of the things I knew what I wanted. I like full page shots, and it may seem a bit cheap and a bit lazy because you're just having one full page shot after another. But I do love them. I don't know why. I just do, because there's something rather grand about them.
Mm-hmm.
But 4 full page shots don't tell a full story.
Right. And
I knew I needed, in the first page, I knew I needed close-ups of both the victim and the killer, because it was meant to be a kind of an offset between the two. So you're going to one, then back to the other, then back to the first. And they're just ducking out, and the camera is panning out until finally you realise, oh, they're in the same place, parallel opposites. And it just worked better that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, I didn't actually realise it was 7 panels in total per page for the first 3 anyway, until you just said so. I think it was just incredibly fortuitous or fluky, I guess, because it wasn't planned that way. It was just how I saw it and how it ended up being broken down on the page.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit the first page is different to how I had envisioned it. The full page is still there, but the insets were meant to be, how I saw them originally was that the insets were meant to be 3 on the left of the page and 3 on the right. So you would have the female character appearing in three panels, and then the male character appearing in the other three panels, with the main shot in the middle. But I'll be honest, Ayoade sent this as a draft, and I thought, actually, this is better. And that's why it's still like this, because Ayoade realised this is better and showed me and kind of schooled me in it a little bit.
Yeah, I had the same thought, because the placement of the panels is a bit different than what I am used to reading when I see constructions like this. But I think that is what makes it really stand out. And also, you got the, James, you mentioned how you originally had it three with the 3 panels with the girl, and then you were envisioning 3 panels with the male character. But the way that it's constructed with 4 on the left and 2 on the right, opening up at the bottom of the page with the full page panel, essentially. There are 2 things about that I just wanted to compliment you guys on. Was you got the mirroring of the facial expressions of the 2 characters going on, and then I love the way that the close there are close-ups of the characters' faces, and each progression of pairs of panels you pull out more. You basically, like, the camera angle is pulling back to where you see in the full page panel towards the bottom right of the page, you see the full construction of the scene. And I really like how you do that close up and pulling out. But at the same time, it almost, to me at least, it seems like that full panel page is actually, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like that is really the first panel. And what we're seeing on the insets is the reaction shots when he realizes what's right in front of him. Did I totally misinterpret that?
No, that's actually kind of how I saw it, how I saw it in my head originally. Okay. I mean, to be honest, the full page is kind of superfluous. It wouldn't need to be there. It's there just to show these 2 characters in the same space.
Right.
The action, the other 6, like you say, yeah, they're the reaction shots.
But that's, I love that you've inverted, and I'm going to come back to that word later. You kind of inverted my expectations by the way that you guys constructed the panels on this page. So I like I said, I compliment you on that. I thought that was a really, this is not a construction I would normally see in the comics that I read.
That's true.
And so then on the second page, like I said, there you have the 7 panels again. The one thing I really wanted to point out here was, and I already complimented Ayoade, but the characters themselves, the especially the one guy who is attacking the bearded man. I really like the way you've drawn that character, Ayoade. And
thank you.
And the way that you have constructed the shadows on the page. So you have all this darkness all around the large panel, the full page panel. There's all this shadow in the background, but in the insets you have the shadow of the bearded man, his beard, and all the shadows that are going on. It's just like you're surrounded by shadow all around this page, and it kind of in a kind of serpentine like way, the shadows kind of move in and around the panels and around the characters and whatnot. And I think it really heightened this idea of the crime, the horror aspects of the page or of the piece, and also gives you a sense of constriction, like a tightness that's going on, that something bad is about to happen. And I really appreciated that.
Thank you very much.
And then of course you have the beard. Actually, we see the beard coming to life early on in this. which was just like, what? So my first reaction was, what the heck is going on with this beard? And considering that the bearded man just seems oblivious to what's going on here, I started to think, well, is this guy? Because he even says it's not what it looks like. He tells the two guys running at him, and I was starting to think, James, that maybe we had some sort of an unreliable narrator situation going on here.
No, I hope not. If there's any confusion, I just put it down to inexperience. But it was meant to be a case that he knew the beard killed this girl, and he knew it. It's like, no, it's not what it looks like. I didn't kill her.
It wasn't premeditated.
Yeah. Well, no.
Oh.
I would like to say that the beard doesn't like, I'm going to kill you. Just like, someone to kill. Dead.
Okay.
And I'd like to think prior to the first page, he tried to stop the beard. Beard wouldn't let him stop. And you know how if someone was accosting someone else, you try and get in there and put your hands between them. I'd like to think of it like that. He was trying to get the beard to stop choking this girl. And it's along those lines. So then the two heroes come in, and it's like, no, it's not what it looks like. It wasn't me. It was the beard. I couldn't stop it.
Right. No, I did get that. I got that sense of it, but I also got the sense, totally my interpretation that maybe this guy was. I wasn't sure if he was conscious of what was happening, or if he was in control of it. It seemed like he wasn't, but I wasn't sure. But I think that works. I think that interpretation also works with the story. So I like that. I like that aspect, that it's not so cut and dried, even though you had a specific intent in mind. Yeah,
I gotta admit, I did want to play with it a little bit. I wanted to go, this isn't, what's going on? I wanted to give that impression with readers and say, okay, so what's going on? Is he crazy? Is he just lying? Is it? And of course, then you get to the panel where it's like the beard grabs the knife, kills his accoster, and it's like, now I get it. But I did want to try and play with that expectation. I didn't want to make it so easy to spot, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I think you guys did a good job with that. And then on the third page, I want to just really focus on the bottom part of it, which is the panel is all black, and the characters are negative. They're like silhouettes, but it's negative. They're white on black on the page. And I was curious because this is where we see that the beard has killed someone directly, whereas before it's implied in the panels, but here it actually you see the event occur, and so there's that reveal. But I was really curious who decided that this part of the story would be presented in this way with the white characters on the black background.
I'd like to say it was me. I hope, Ayoade, you don't think I'm stealing your thunder or anything, because
no, that was you.
Because how he drew it was just mind blowing. The second I saw it, it was like my jaw hit the floor and the table and the chair on the way down. But I like those inverse kind of silhouette shots.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember where I saw the first one, or one that I really loved. I want to say it was in the miniseries Snapshot by Andy Diggle and Jock. I think there was one in there that I really loved. And ever since then, that and Punk Rock Jesus, I've always had a love of monochrome, of the black and white comic.
Mm.
And it felt like something, it felt like it was a real eye-popping moment to have. It really just stands out and says, gives you like this, whoa, what has just happened? Kind of. Also, I kind of took it a little bit from Kill Bill. As during the fight scene between the bride and the crazy 88, it goes to black and white, or might have been black and red. It's been a while since I've seen it. But yeah, lots of killing, lots of blood, but you can't see it because it's all black and white and it's all in silhouette. And it was really powerful. And I thought that's what I want.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think it's a very powerful moment in the story. And for me, like I mentioned the inverting that you did on that first page. Yeah. This is an inversion of a different kind, but I like that it carries through from page to page, that you get a sense of inversion, whether it's through the characters or the situation or just the particular way it's presented on the page. I just think that was really, really well done. That you for what you guys did there.
Thank you. I mean, to be honest, I think anyone but at Ayoade doing this would not have looked as good. Mm-hmm. And we might as well just call this episode the Praise Ayoade Abobarin. Because that's what I'm going to do. That's all I'm willing to do at this point. But I mean, if you notice, all of the gutters for all the panels on page 3 are all black. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like they were literally stuck on top of the actual page, and I find that just mind blowing. That wasn't how I saw it. That wasn't how I intended it, and that's something he did, and it just makes it like 10, 100 times better.
Okay, so Ayoade, was that a conscious choice, or what were what was your thoughts about doing the gutters all black as James just described?
Thank you very much. There's a little backstory to that particular type of layout. See, first of all, having that number of panels on a page for me is something I've always looked forward to as a challenge in this line of work. See, back in 2002, there was this, Marvel put out a contest for a short Wolverine story. They were looking for a Wolverine artist that would draw a fill-in. So there was a mini script which we downloaded. Well, Wolverine was supposed to finish drinking in a bar. He's been spied on by some armed guys. He takes out all 3 or 4 of them and slashes through a flamethrower, all in 3 pages. So that was when I had learned that packing panels, ability to stack panels clearly on several panels clearly on a page is one of the things you have to learn in this line of work. So I've always anticipated and look forward to the day that I would have a script in which there will be a constraint of number of pages in which I have to lay out inserts on a main panel. So when I read through his script and I saw a situation in which you'd have a main panel in which you have small inserts, that thing kicked off in me, permit me to say it that way. Then the idea of, it's part of the comic book illustration philosophy that aside the individual events taking place in individual panels, the whole page should be a piece of design on its own. That looking at the page in totality, you have a piece of design, a piece of individual design that would be best summarized as a whole that is greater than sum of parts. Then secondly, I read, my favorite comics were from the Exodus era of Marvel comics, the period in which the Big Seven left Marvel to strike out on their own. So my favorite artists from back then all, used silhouettes extensively. So all my life, silhouettes were always part of the staple of artwork that I consumed as I read comics. So silhouettes was something I've always loved, I've always seen, and I can rightfully say I've had quite some experience in silhouetting. So the black shadows running through the back of the insert panels and all that, and you have the background of the main panels extending beyond the back of the inserts, and all that came from that Marvel attitude for comic art. Let me put it that way. Thank you.
So again, Ayoade, you have wowed me, because I guess I've been reading comics for a very long time, and I never really thought of the page, the construction of the page being a whole piece of art. I always look at it, I'm looking at everything in the panels and the art there. I never really thought of it in terms of how the layout of the page and what's on the page should be considered a piece of work on its own. So that is just fascinating.
Thank you.
And then finally, we have the fourth page, and now this is just a splash page. We get a one panel page. We get the title of the story at the end of the story, which again, to me, that was, an inversion again. You usually get the title at the beginning of the story. So you get that here, and everything is just, once the violence is done, everything opens up on the page, which I thought that was a really interesting choice, as opposed to what we've seen in the previous 3 pages. Can you talk about that?
Let James go first. Yeah, James, go first.
Yeah.
Okay. To be honest, I want it, when I wrote it, how I saw it in my head being on the page, I expected it to be a lot more cluttered than what Ayoade had actually created. And I just envisioned a lot of close cut scenes for the first 3 pages, and it all looking very confusing, for want of a better word. And I thought, well, you know what? We've got it done now. We've killed everyone. It's all dead. And it's not his fault. Now we need to survey the damage. We need to see the whole picture. And I thought, because originally I thought of something different. I originally thought of the Beard idea, and it was going to be 2 police officers picking up a perp, and then his Beard killing the cops. And that didn't work. It didn't make sense but at the end, it was still going to be, I always envisioned, this is what he needs to see. We need to see all the damage. So I thought, use that one page. Just have the whole page all to itself. As for the credits, partly it's just due to space. I don't think it could have gone anywhere else in the first 3 pages.
That's true.
But also, I like to tease it as kind of a cold open. So the first 4 pages are the cold open of a film or a TV show. And then you get the credits, and then the TV show continues or the film continues.
Okay, yeah.
I haven't, of course, actually thought that far ahead, but it's nice to tease it.
So had this been more than 4 pages, that would have been, like you said, the opening, and then we get the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would totally work.
In theory, let's not pretend I actually have the pages somewhere hidden above. I literally made these 4 pages, and that was it.
So did you guys, once you were done and you had the final result, do either of you, I mean, I understand that, it's something you're just doing out because you wanted to try this, but did you ever consider doing a full story out of it, a full comic?
I hadn't. I'll be honest. I got as far as writing this, and I was happy with it. And I don't know. I can't speak for Ayoade. I mean, did you have any thoughts about further in the story?
No. For my end here, that last page was like, the dead is dead. People are picking up, like the end of a movie where people pick up pieces and move on with their life. Actually, what came to my mind was a typical of a vampire movie in which day breaks finally, and the dead, the release of the dead are counting their loss. People are picking up pieces, and it's finally dawn is here. It's daybreak. The sun is out. So in the dead are dead, like the end of dusk till dawn. The few humans left are picking up pieces and driving off. The infected guy is looking for how much distance he can cover before the thing kicks in again. Life has to roll on. So for me, that's conclusive enough for a shot. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, Ayoade, because I got that sense as well when I read that last page, because of the way, it's a full page, it's opened up, but there's a lot more white on the page. It's not as constricted. There's not as much blackness presented on the page as compared to the previous 3 pages. So that I'm glad that I seem to be on the right track in terms of how I interpreted that page. There is one more thing I wanted to ask you guys about the 4 pages. It's just a little thing, but because this is a black and white comic,
yeah,
with the exception of some red text, so some of the dialogue, or at least one bit of dialogue, is presented in red text. We have a sound effect in red. And then the title itself is also red. I think that's it. I guess I just wanted to know why those particular things, because there's other dialogue presented in the comic, but that's not red. So what was the significance of the red color? I guess that's the only thing I was racking my brain. I could not figure out.
I'll be honest. When we find out, we'll let you know. Basically, I can't letter to save my life. I can't draw to save my life. That's why I'm, again, humbled, because I have Ayoade here to get me through this. Ayoade does letter. You do, don't you?
Yeah, I do letter. I do.
But I didn't want to ask him of it, because I've not paid him for what we've done. I've not. Basically, from the get-go, I said to him, look, I can offer you no money, I can offer you nothing. All that I can offer you is this. 50-50. What's mine is yours. We work together on this. And any credit is just split down the middle. And, I didn't want to ask him to letter as well, because he's just drawn 4 fantastic pages.
Mm-hmm.
But Matt Garvey, that name comes back again, he does letter. He letters his own comics, and he said to me, well, you know what? I will letter them for you.
Oh, okay.
And he did. And he came back, and they were lettered in red. And I actually rather like them in red. I don't know why. They kind of... Have you read Black Magic?
Yes.
Yes. Nicholas Scott's artwork is completely black and white. A hint of a greyish brown in there, but for the most part, it's black and white. And then the colorist, whose name escapes me. But the limited use of color in that series is just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a similar vein, it works here. It just pops, and it allows something a little different to just break up the black and white.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
But yeah, in terms of an actual deliberate reason, I have no clue. So I am very grateful to him that he done it.
Yeah.
So
okay.
when he does listen to this, and he will listen, Matt, thank you.
Thank you very much, man.
All right. So is there is there anything else that I haven't brought up or we haven't talked about in relation to this that you guys would like to bring up?
I will bring up one little thing. It has absolutely no relevance to it for the most part. We've referred to these people as girl, man with beard, man who's accosted. They all did have names. They all have names. And the reason they aren't referenced is simply because I didn't want to be, I didn't want it to be one of the pacing of it wouldn't allow me to be, oh, this is so-and-so, but I've killed her. Mm-hmm. I am this guy who's killed her. You are, and you are. So on the script that I sent Ayoade, they are referred to, the two heroes, the two gentlemen, are referred to as Tom and Jerry. But no other reason than the fact that I just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
The main character, the man in his killer beard, is Matt.
I was going to ask you that.
Because Matt Garvey does have a beard, and like we said, and I gave a breakdown of what each character looks like, which Ayoade used for his characterizations, and I actually referred to Matt as like Matt Garvey, but with Mick Foley's beard.
Okay,
Mick Foley, the best one.
That's right.
And even the girl gets a name, and she's known as Alex. And the reason for that is because it's an homage to women in refrigerators.
Okay.
I don't like the concept.
Right.
I don't like killing off female characters just for the fun of it. But I could think of no other way of doing it at this point for this. So I just referred to her as Alex, as Carl Rayner's girlfriend, who was attacked in the refrigerator by Major Force. It was Major Force, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't recall.
But that's it. The funny thing is I review for a website called Pipe Dream Comics, and the editor, funnily enough, his name is Alex. So when he saw this, the first thing I get is an email saying, "Why did you kill me?" And I was like, no, it wasn't you. I named it after women in refrigerators. You're good. Yeah, we're good.
So what did Matt think about his likeness?
I don't recall. I don't know if we've just not acknowledged it between each other, or if he said something and I've just forgotten. I remember something. Sorry, Ayoade?
Yeah, I do remember after you posted the comic on the thread. I remember Matt, passing a comment. Then at the end of the thread, he said he has to go shave his beard. That you never know what can happen.
I don't think he shaved it up until this point.
I don't know. I don't think he actually went to do that. But he did pass a comment on the thread that he better go shave his beard because you never know.
Yes, sir. I think he's all right for the minute, though. I don't think his beard's killed him off. Though I suspect all his followers are giving him a bit of a wide berth. I'll buy your book, just don't let your beard kill me.
That's great.
But I just wanted to say that just because, I said, I'm going to take it to my grave, and I just really wanted to get that out there.
All right. No, that's great. This is like an Easter egg.
Yeah.
For your comic, yeah.
Absolutely. That's one of the special features.
Yeah, there you go. Ayoade, anything from you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's been a privilege, talking to you guys and, talking about comics. I've waited all day for this meeting and I've had fun, and it's a good way to wrap up my birthday, and, it's been fun. You guys rock. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is next for both of you creatively? What do you have any other creative endeavors? I know Ayoade, you are already a professional artist and working on things and creating things, but what is it that you're going to be working on next?
I'm presently working on a satirical comic. It's a satire. I've tentatively titled Brexit Still and the State of the Union. It's about a super soldier project that was secretly run by the UNO, leading to recent events in which Britain decided to pull out. That's what I'm working on presently.
Well, that sounds really cool.
It does. I'll take a copy of that when you're done, my friend.
Sure.
First customer right here.
All right, then.
And what about you, James? What are you going to do? You have the blog.
I do.
Anything else like what you've done with Ayoade? Anything else in the future?
Nothing concrete. I mean, for me, it was just a case of seeing if I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I was told just do it, and I did. Beyond blogging, beyond reviewing for Pipe Dream, I'm helping out my local comic book shop. They're trying to put together a signing of small press indie creators. So that's happening July 15th in my hometown of Swindon, incredible comic shop. We actually, strange enough, Matt Garvey will be there. He's getting into this conversation a lot, I must admit. Of many others as well. So I'm trying to help them with that as best I can. Hopefully it'll be bigger and better in the years to come. I've got I've got other ideas in my head. I've got this green book my wife bought me. It has every idea I've ever had. Maybe one day one of them will come out. It'll become something.
Okay.
I got to admit though, this conversation I do have ideas for the next 4 pages. So
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing them if they ever materialize.
Well, only if Ayoade will draw them.
Yeah, of course.
I couldn't have anyone else.
Yeah.
Well, sure. It would be a pleasure to contribute once again to the original idea. Yeah. Why not?
And now I feel the pressure. I think I'm gonna have to go and think these up.
Well, thank you both so much for agreeing to talk with me about this. This has been not only a lot of fun, but very educational for me to hear 2 comic creators talk about how they produced a comic. This is really awesome. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Before I let you go, please tell people where they can find you online if they want to look up your work in the various platforms that you'd like to mention, if you would please.
After you, Ayoade.
Well, I have a Facebook page, Abobarin Ayoade. Facebook.com/Abobarin Ayoade. That's my Facebook page. I'm also on Twitter at Ayoade Abobaba. That's my Twitter handle. I'm also on Instagram, Abobarin Ayoade, no space in between. Then I also have a Deviant art account, abobarani.ayoade. So it's deviantart.com/abobarani.ayoade. That's my Deviant art page. Thank you very much.
And myself, I'm on Twitter at James_Blundell, BLUNDLL, because no one can ever spell it, not even me. I blog every now and again at a blog, apologies, a comicbookaddict.blogspot.com. I also review for Pipe Dream Comics, www.pipedreamcomics.co.uk, which we do a lot of small press stuff similar to what we created. So it's always good fun to read. And that's kind of all I am in the world.
All right. Well, thank you both again. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's getting late for you, so I really appreciate that you agreed to come talk to me about this stuff. And I wish you both the best of luck with your work, and I can't wait to see more.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. It's been fun.
All right, and like I said, good talking with you. And I'll talk to you hopefully again in the very near future.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, look forward to that.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and I will talk to you all later.